Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I'm going to do a couple of miscellaneous things in this episode. I was editing some videos that are in the can, so to speak, and will be posted eventually. And those are the videos that we're working on updating all the CSLA analyzers to use the attribute for operations. And it's interesting when I've been watching myself code, and I put this in Twitter. It's like doing a delayed pair programming session with yourself. And one of the projects, I've only been on one project in my life where we did pair programming. We did it for like a year, and actually I overall enjoyed it. And one of the things I enjoyed is when you're pairing with somebody, you're usually noticing mistakes that they're doing before they see it. There's something about being the observer of somebody coding that you pick up on their mistakes faster. And actually, you had to train yourself not to keep interrupting them, because we had one guy come on the project who is new, not new to development, but new to the process. And as soon as somebody made a mistake, he would constantly be telling them, and we had to say to him, you have to buffer yourself. You have to stop interrupting, because you're actually disrupting their flow. And sometimes you're making a mistake and you're going to come back to it. So yeah, there's a balance there to kind of wait in your head, and if they go too long, go, did you know you did that? And anyway, so it's kind of like watching that. And one of the things I noticed is when I was writing the tests here for data portal operation qualification tests is all these combined tests, and going, wow, it didn't dawn on me as I was writing them, but I'm like, I know X unit and N unit have parameterization. Can we do that here? Would it be possible to do that? And I'm like, yes, it should be. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I've never done this in MS Test, and actually I had to look up, is it possible? And so I made a little thing for me here, and data row and data test method is apparently the thing you use. So let's try this. So I'm going to say data row. Okay, so that is there, and then data. Okay, so the thing I actually want to do first is, what do I need to do here as a test? I want to do combine. And we want to say bool, I can't say var as an argument or a parameter. That doesn't work. We want to say bool first by naming convention, and then bool first by, is it by attribute? Yeah, attribute. And then we're going to grab those, and we're going to do second, and then second, and then we need to know what the results are going to be. Bool expected by naming convention, and then bool expected by attribute. There. Okay. And we need to make this a data test method, and we need a data row. And excuse me. So I guess you just pass them all in. That's an odd way to do an attribute, but okay, so the first one would be false, 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 true, false, true. And then we'll just do one more, and we'll see what happens when we do this. So we'll have, nope, 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 not there, not there. And it's probably just easier to false, false, true, false, true, false. Okay, so we got that, but now we actually need to put this in here and say first by naming convention, first by attribute. We're going to combine that with second by naming convention and second by attribute. And now we can't do as false as true here. We have to say are equal. So we expected by naming convention. And we got that. And then we want to say here equal expected by attribute by attribute. Okay, and let's run all tests. Now one thing too here to note, because I've been doing a couple of things offline with analyzers in CSLA, one of them is we finally figured out that there's been this analyzer that looks at your parameters and says if they're not serializable, flag it. And we've had lots of struggles with this. I may have done episodes on this in the past. And I hope it ran. Yeah, it did. I just caught that it ran. And I'll explain this in a second too. I wonder how it shows up. So it's just combined. Yeah, I think like an N unit and or X unit, they put in like the separate ones. So it doesn't look like one test. It looks like a number of tests. And I think that's where this properties comes from, like a display name. And so if you don't pass it in, it just doesn't do it. But, well, let's try it. Oh, display name. Okay, that was throwing me. Okay, and then if we grab that one and we say display name is equal to, it's stupid names, but otherwise they get way too long. So let's run that, see what happens. So, so we finally fixed it. It seemed like the latest problem was that when I changed the package for analyzers to be jumped up, nobody noticed that it wasn't actually catching it in the build because the .NET Standard 1.3 was putting it in a different location. And only recently did Rocky catch this inadvertently because he thought, wait a minute, this analyzer isn't doing the right thing. And I'm like, no, we fixed this. And it took me a while, and I finally realized, hey, wait a minute. The analyzer that is in the package for CSLA isn't the right one. But it was only like from a month ago, so it was convoluted. But long story short, we realized, oh, that was the problem. So once I fixed that by telling Rocky to fix the build, I worked on this other thing with dependency injection now in CSLA. There's a better way to do it, and you can basically put an inject attribute on a parameter in your operation. And so I had to change the code because I have to ignore those for the serialization. Those don't have to be serializable. All right. So yeah, it doesn't really seem to do much of anything, does it? Which is kind of sad. I was hoping it would actually, show all of them, because then it looks like you've done more work. But it doesn't, which is okay too, because these display names, as the method names are anyway, are kind of shady. So in any event, you notice here that we have both, let me scroll this back up, there we go. Then we have both 461 and 22. This is apparently a new thing that the Test Explorer supports. And I think that the CLI would do this all the time anyway. But you can now specify target frameworks, and the Test Explorer is now smart enough to pick that up and run those in both target environments, both target frameworks, which is really, really nice. Rocky actually added for CSLA, and I've changed this too. No. Over here, I'm now referencing the .NET Standard 2.0 version for the analyzers. Well, it's not the analyzers doesn't refer to it. The tests in the V6 extension project does. And that's actually a nicer thing because it's a little bit more generalized. And now I'm not targeting 461, so now I can actually have tests that run against 2.2 and 4.6.1. And I could put in other ones here if we wanted, just to make sure nothing goes wonky. But yeah, so that's kind of nice. I like that you can just, and yeah, over time as we get .NET and just D.NET, then this won't be as big of an issue. But you know, steps. Speaking of .NET, I heard in a video, I think his name is Ed Charbonneau, who's doing a Blazor video on the Visual Studio channel, whatever that is, on YouTube. He mentioned at the end that the client side, and he doesn't work for Microsoft, so I took this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he knows his stuff, and so I was like, he mentioned that the client side version of Blazor, the server side one will be coming with .NET Core 3, which is great because that means they're committing to the model. I would never recommend server-side Blazor to any client. The network connectivity guarantees that you need is just too much. Your app needs to have a lot more not latency, but it needs a lot more uptime. Because if the network ever goes down and you do something, the app just wouldn't work. And so that's why the client side is so appealing. But he said, they've always said that's coming, but it's going to be post.NET Core 3. And Ed said, I think he said, to be fair, probably .NET 5, which would be next year, November 2020. And I just kind of did this and went, oh, no. God, another year, you know. Because it's such a cool framework, and to wait that long. And part of it may be, too, with some of the lacking features that are in WebAssembly. You know, you don't have native DOM support is one of them. The threading thing, the GC thing, or some others. So maybe they're just kind of waiting to see if hopefully those get added to WebAssembly 2.0 or something like that. And then they can take advantage of that and have better performance. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm kind of babbling a little bit. So now we need to add all these tests. And I really don't like that the tests don't show up as individual items. That's not really cool. False, true, 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 true. Because it would be good to see in the test that yes, actually all what's going to be 16 data row items are actually running. False, true, false, 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 true. When I actually was editing the video, when I wrote all these tests, I sped it up in the edited version because it was just like, this is like watching, paint dry on a wall. False, true, false, true, false, true. Yeah. And I know that's probably the same thing that it looks like with this. But, it is what it is. The nice thing about this, false, true, 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 false, true, true. I feel like I'm in the movie Cloud Atlas, the true. that actually came up in a discussion. The company I work for, which is Magenic, we use Microsoft Teams, and I know some people probably said, sorry, or you're dumb. False, true, 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 true. We started just, we have technical groups on things like, cloud computing, C#, .NET, Java, all this other stuff. And then we also have a team with channels that's just kind of what we call water cooler. And that's for, they're not work related, kind of to just build up community within Magenic on topics that people like movies, music, science, things like that. True, false, 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 true, false. And of course, the topic of Matrix 4 came up because that's just been announced that that's going to be a thing. Quite frankly, my reaction to it was true, false, false, true, true, true. Was less than stellar. I love the first movie. The first movie is awesome and still looks good. You know, it's hard to think that. I don't know when the movie actually came out, specifically what year. But when it did, it was such a, you know, it was unexpected in a way. All right. True, false, true, false, true, false. And kind of a welcome surprise. So, and then they announced the second and third movies, and I like them. I think it's one of those things that there was such an expectation for, you know, them to kind of just blow people away even more. I think they started to get into areas that just didn't quite make sense. Though I've watched them, you know, since, you know, the years gone by, and there's definitely aspects to them that I do like. There are other aspects that I'm like, I don't know how well this worked. But apparently, Keanu and Carrie are going to be in the movie, and I'm like, not to spoil anything, but I kind of am if you've never seen them. I don't know how they could do that because they're dead. Well, and that's the argument is, well, what did they really die? And what's 4 going to actually be like? You know, who knows? So we were discussing this. And to tie a bow at the end of this long story, so to speak, the movie Cloud Atlas came up because Wachowskis did that movie as well. And true. I think this is the last one because... Yep. Okay. So, now if I run this, with 16 tests. So, the movie Cloud Atlas came up, and it was a movie I loved. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I really thought it was daring. I thought it was innovative. I thought it was cool how they had all these actors do all these different roles. Sometimes actually, I think, like would switch the gender of the actor for a role in a particular time. You have to see the movie because it's like 6 different times that they do. And there's a thread that goes through all 6 of them. It's based on a book that I haven't read, but apparently it follows the book fairly well. I don't know. But I just realized something. I'm missing one. Because I was looking at all the Boolean logic here, and I'm like, wait a minute. We're missing this being false. And that being false. Because we should have... Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, now we have enough. Let's run them again. So, I thought it was done really, really well. And I really enjoyed it. I've noticed people have a very polarized view of the movie. Either you really like it or you just don't. And you don't like it at all. So, it is what it is, you know. Some people like things, some people don't. My wife and I watched a movie this weekend called High Life, which, no, it's not about drugs. It's a sci-fi, supposed to be horror movie. And it got good reviews. I heard about it because I came across an article in Empire Magazine talking about the best top 10 or 15 movies of 2019, even though I think this came out in 2018, but never mind. And we watched it, and you know, sometimes my wife and I don't agree. Most of the time we do. Sometimes we don't. I loved Birdman. She did not. But yeah, we both were like, what the hell was that? and then we went on a walk the next day and we were talking about it. And we were both like, that was just stupid. That was dumb. That was like such a waste of our time. So, some people just don't click with things, and that's okay. All right, so we got all of them in the past? Yes, we do. Good. Okay, so let me do my stuff. And then we're going to... And I said it's 12:59, right? Yep. Really? Yeah, okay. 12:59. Updated test to be parameterized. If I could actually spell. There we go. Okay. There was something else I wanted to look at. No, not Notepad. Not my descriptions that I keep in mind. Where did I... There. Yeah, there. Okay. There's a couple things I had over here in a to-do. And that's done. Just have to push it, but that's okay. Apparently, there's another thing I noticed. Oh, I must have typed that in right. There we go. Yeah, I have a return here. There's no reason to have a return there. I don't know why that, stuck out, but it did. And yeah, there's no reason for it. So I'm kind of curious. Let's say return. Some of these are probably... Oh, no. Well, that's okay. There's not that many. I don't care about Rocky stuff. Okay. Looks like that's the only thing from me. Okay, good. So when I get to that point, I'm going to commit it. There's one other thing I wanted to do. Is just kind of a fun exercise. Is Rocky asked me to... I'm going to do create a new project, console app done. I have to admit I'm getting kind of used to console app 4. Yeah, I'm getting kind of used to this new dialogue. I don't know if I'm being Stockholmed, but I don't know. It's actually, I don't think it's as bad as I originally thought it was, but some people might claim heresy on that one. Okay, so it was this thing of he wanted me to do a code review on something he just committed. And I looked at it, and there was a couple spots where he was, like, he had if, else, else. And in all those three, he was calling a method to get the value. And I said, well, why don't you just cache the value and then, make sure that it's done only once rather than calculate it. Potentially, you have to do it at least once, but you might be doing it 3 times. And how fast actually is that? So there's lots of ways to test this. I want to do a benchmarky thing, but what I want to do is just add, come on, I said add, right? No, what are you doing? Caching for branching. And we'll do this, and then we'll do public int. No caching. And we need to have benchmark on this. Let that find it. Did you find it? Dear Lord. Seriously? Sometimes I wonder. Okay, so what I want to have here is a private static void call method, or do something. We want to pass in a value. Okay. And we want it to do a little bit of work. We're going to say return value times 3. So oh, it can't be void. Duh. Yeah, there we go. So if we say if do something of 3 is equal to 10, which it won't be, then we want to return 0. Else if do something of 3 is equal to 2, return 1. Else if do something is equal to of 3 is equal to 22, return 2. Else return 3. Really stupid code, but we want to change this to actually say caching. So we'll say here caching. We're going to grab this into a local, and now is it smart enough to? Yeah, it is. Okay, it is. That's good. That's good to do. So you can say for all occurrences, you can say result. Boom! Nice. Nice refactoring. Love it. Okay, let's come back to program here. Come on, program. And we're going to say benchmark runner.run caching for branching. All right. Let's see what this does. No, what did you do that for? What the? Oh, I got my keyboard. Got the switch going to. Oh, there's errors. There's errors? Oh, for God's sakes. Does that help? There we go. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of time to run. We're just going to see what the results of it are going to be. Because again, it was just, it seems to make logical sense to me that you would, excuse me, that you would want to cache a method. And this is about the smallest method that you could write. And does it actually make a noticeable difference? Now, with what he was doing, I didn't actually look at the method he was calling. I think it might have been actually a reflection method. And those you definitely would want to just get the result and then use that everywhere. So we'll see if this makes any. Did I put branching on? Yeah, I did. I put benchmark on this second one. I don't want to see myself. I want to see that. So I'll cut this out of the video and then we'll see the results. Okay, so this was kind of surprising. Well, they're almost like so, yeah, it's indistinguishable from the empty method. They're so fast. So actually what I'm going to do is we're going to change this. We're going to do something, actually do something of some worth and merit. We're going to say here, do something string method name. Okay. And what we're actually going to return is a method info. And we can actually say type of caching or branching get method name. There. So now we're going to look up name of no caching is equal to dot. Actually, we'll do that. Instead of returning, we'll say string name is equal to blurf. And then, oh, we gotta do that. Okay. And then we gotta do this. Fluff. And then we gotta do this. Foo. Else that. Okay. Now those should definitely die off. And then we'll just copy this in here right now. And then we'll hopefully do the same wonderful goodness. And we'll see result. And we'll say caching, just to be different. Okay. Now hopefully this will be a little bit more work. So we'll see. All right, so once the test results are done, I will come back. Okay, we're back, and you can see, yes, it's definitely making a difference now. So that's good. Actually, there's one other thing I want to do, which is to put the memory diagnoser on it, and just to see if that matters. So one more to the breach, or whatever the phrase is, and then we will see what the memory results are when this is done. Okay, so apparently it doesn't matter. So, that's kind of surprising that it doesn't actually do any allocations. That's actually really interesting. So, whatever. But the original advice is true. Don't keep calling something if you have to do of any amount of work. And again, you can say, well, that's nanoseconds. That doesn't matter. But it does. I mean, you know, this is easy to do with a refactoring and catch it, and then you don't have to keep calling it. And what happens if the method isn't, what is it, idempotent or whatever, or side effect free or whatever, that you give the same input, you should always get the same output. In this case, that's true, but maybe it isn't. So in any event, yeah, don't do this. There's a thought that went blazing through my head, and I was about to say it, but I can't remember. It has to do with benchmarking. God. It has to do with benchmarking. Has to do with... What was it that I was going to talk about? Oh, yeah. I'm glad I remembered it. Okay. Attributes. So the whole thing with attributes in CSLA, I had actually done some benchmarking on it, and it's apparently slower than if you just do a lookup on a well-known method name, which isn't that surprising. It actually takes more memory, and we're not talking like megabytes, we're talking like bytes, you know, but it's still more to do attributes than it is the method name. And, you know, so part of me is like, well, that kind of sucks, but this is where, you know, you definitely want great performance in an app. But there also has to be, you know, great flexibility and good features within an app. And in this case, I think this is where, yes, it's potentially slower, but we're not talking, like, we figured within the entire scope of an application, whether it's client-side, middleware, whatever, let's say you had 10,000 business objects, discrete business objects that you had to load and find methods on. You know, over the course of that app running, how much time would actually be taken up with this? And it was like minuscule. And there's actually advantages to doing this because you can, you don't have to worry about the method names. You don't have to worry about overloading. You can actually call them all different names if you want. So it gives you a lot more flexibility as a developer for naming conventions and whatnot to do what you want. You just have to put that attribute there. So, you know, there's advantages. It's not, speed is definitely a thing. You know, if we were talking like 10 orders of magnitude difference between the two, then yeah, that would actually be like, well, maybe we don't do that. But it wasn't, and there's benefits for that feature. So, in any event, that's all I'm going to do for now. I will commit all this work and get it into CSLA, but that's all I'm going to do for now. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.